And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We do have a number of things to share today. We're keeping a very close eye on the economy, and we're ready if there are ramifications and unemployment insurance claims related to the increasing COVID risk levels we're seeing in parts of Oregon. We're hearing that some employers are having difficulty finding workers as the economic recovery continues. There's an assumption that this is because people want to keep receiving unemployment benefits. In reality, we're not finding that to be a widespread cause. There are many factors impacting the ability of Oregonians to go back to work right now. Last year, before the pandemic hit, employers were already having a hard time filling many positions. Now, thousands of employers are reopening or expanding at roughly the same time, and many are looking for the same types of workers with the same skills. That means that there's a lot of competition for workers all happening at once, and that can cause wage levels to go up, especially when the unemployment rate is lower now at 6% than it has been on average over the past 2 decades, 6.8%. And unfortunately, many people are still facing very real barriers to returning to work. These can include their own individual health circumstances or those of close family members, having childcare, or a number of other COVID-related impacts. We do encourage employers who are concerned about people turning down offers of work without having good cause to let us know by clicking on the quote, report employees not returning to work quick link on our unemployment.oregon.gov webpage. I wanted to provide some updates on some of the benefit payments and programs, and we've heard from people that it can be confusing dealing with all of the different programs, their changes over time, and the wide variety of circumstances that can impact their claims. We know that this can be confusing and that things have become much more complex as programs have been created, changed, and changed again. A consequence of this is that some people have claims that require extensive manual review or more advanced work in order for us to fix. One example has been people who needed to have some of their PUA weeks manually moved in order to avoid overpayments. About 7,000 or 8,000 people were in this situation, and it caused some delay in them receiving 1 or 2 weeks of $300 FPUC benefits. Those people have been waiting for us to complete the work needed to get them their benefits, and the good news is that they should be receiving those benefits that should be reflected in the online claim system by this Friday, and the money should be in their accounts by next Tuesday. We've had some updates related to delays for some people getting their benefit payments to share also. We know that people are counting on their benefit payments coming in on time, and we're doing everything we can to ensure they get their funds in a timely manner. About 20,000 people receiving PUA benefits experienced problems over the weekend and earlier this week when trying to file their weekly claims. We want to make sure people know that we are receiving those weekly claim filings so they do not need to refile even if they received an error message. We worked with our vendor to address suspicious activity and to get the PUA system back up as quickly as we could. This work was taking place over the weekend and into this week. Unfortunately, some people may see a brief delay of 1 day for their PUA payments, and we're continuing to closely monitor the situation and work with our vendors to address any further issues that arise. Federal law requires that we review all of the unemployment insurance, UI, and PEUC claims for eligibility every calendar quarter. We've been doing these quarterly reviews throughout the pandemic, and it's been a relatively smooth process, but now some people may be seeing a delay in receiving payments. The delay is because at about the same time of these quarterly reviews, we're also seeing a very high number of expiring claims and new claims being filed. And as I've shared before, when a new claim is filed, we're required by federal law to look at the new claim and the old claim, compare them, and make sure that the person's weekly benefit amount doesn't significantly decrease. Although this helps people avoid a decrease in benefit payments, it does take some additional review. People should keep filing their weekly claims each week to receive their benefits. And we've also seen that as people's claims expire and they file new claims, for some people, they're receiving their benefits on checks or Relia cards. And I want to apologize for any inconvenience this change in payment method may cause, and we've been working to resolve this issue. We estimate that we will have addressed the issue for people who have already experienced this by the end of the month, and that future situations where this might arise will generally be resolved within 10 days. Importantly, this isn't something that people need to do anything about. We are reviewing those situations and addressing them without people needing to take any additional action. And we continue to try to provide more resources for people that are seeking our assistance for benefits or to find jobs. And we know that getting through to us on the phone is incredibly difficult. We introduced our online message system, the Contact Us form, last July to make it easier for people to get in touch with us and to make it more efficient for us to help them and get their questions answered. While the Contact Us form has meant fewer people need to call in to get assistance, it can still take us longer than we'd like to get some questions answered. We're constantly striving to make improvements where we can, particularly in our customer service. And that's why we've decided to improve the Contact Us form. We're moving to a new application which will make it easier for people to track their requests and make it easier for them to find useful information related to their requests on our website. This new Contact Us form is anticipated to go live in both English and Spanish next week on April 28th. This new system will also allow us to better track data related to the types of requests we're receiving and wait times for responding, so we can identify gaps and work to make improvements. We have seen a large number of inquiries over the past several weeks, and unfortunately that means it is still taking us longer than we want to respond to all of them. Importantly, this new tool that we will be rolling out next week will let us address those inquiries more efficiently, so we'll be able to help people with their claims more quickly. We know that many people are also concerned about fraud and keeping their identity safe. And unfortunately, criminals continue to try to take advantage of people in a number of ways during these difficult times. We remain committed to protecting people's benefits and Oregon's Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. We continue updating our ID theft and fraud page on our website and urge people to visit it frequently to look for new information. Our new tips include proactive steps people can take to protect their unemployment claim, such as changing their unemployment claim password frequently. If people haven't updated their password recently or ever, now is a good time to do so. People can also check the address and banking account information on their claim to make sure that it hasn't been changed. All of these steps can be easily taken when logging in to file a weekly claim for benefits. And people that are filing for PUA benefits will also soon see that we're adding a CAPTCHA form when they log in. This is part of our ongoing continual process to safeguard people's benefits and Oregon's trust fund. Our ID theft and fraud page also includes tips and information for people who may have unknowingly been victims of identity theft or potential fraud, even if they never filed a claim for unemployment benefits. We're continuing to provide webinars to help share information about benefit programs with the public, and our next one is at 1 p.m. this Thursday, April 22nd. It will be talking about overpayments. We'll talk about what overpayments are, when they can be waived, and how people can request to have the overpayments waived. On Thursday, April 29th, we'll be holding another webinar focused on issues related to school workers. Both of these webinars will have simultaneous interpretation available in Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, and Cantonese, and people can register for the webinars or go view the past ones at unemployment.oregon.gov/webinars. To share some of the numbers, from March 15th of 2020 through April 13th, 2021, we paid $8.7 billion to more than 581,000 people. That covers 12.9 million weeks of benefits. Last week alone, it was about 138,000 people that we paid benefits, totaling $117 million. The total amount of benefits we've paid out during the pandemic includes $750 million to just under 106,000 people under the PUA program. In closing, I again want to express my sorrow for people that experienced a delay in receiving some of their benefits this week. We continue to work hard to make sure we're paying benefits on time, keeping our systems running smoothly, and that we finalize the creation of new benefit programs. Once again, when our employees realized that there was a challenge, they worked diligently to get our PUA form working and to get benefits to people as quickly as possible. their efforts and commitment to serving Oregonians is recognized and very much appreciated. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have.
Now we are opening the lines to members of the media to ask questions. We will call on you in the order you RSVP'd. And a reminder, if you are joining us by phone, please be sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. If you don't get your question answered, please email oed_communications@oregon.gov. And the first person to ask a question, I'm sorry, excuse me, 1 second there, is going to be Peter Wong with Paplin Media.
Okay, hi.
Hey, Peter.
Okay, couple of quick questions. One, you have not yet launched the mixed earner unemployment compensation. I think you were talking about the end of the month, so we're not at the end of the month yet. So
That's right. That's something that we've been working really hard on, and we'll certainly share updates as we have more definite information. Our goal has been to still do that by the end of the month. We're working to do that. If that's not possible, as soon as we know what the go live date will be, we'll certainly share that. We have had some additional challenges, of course, having to redirect people to deal with issues over the weekend. And we, of course, want to make sure that it's functioning smoothly and that we've had a chance to do all the testing. But we have multiple teams working on that MUC program right now and have had for some time.
okay. The other is, yeah, I noticed last week the House did pass the unemployment payroll tax bill that you discussed. You have discussed, and I believe Senate Bill 172 is coming up for third reading tomorrow in the Senate on overpayments. Could you? I know you've discussed this before, so I apologize. Could you refresh my memory about this is a slight change in the way that overpayments are handled, if I recall correctly?
Sure. So there's a number of technical changes that Senate Bill 172A makes. Probably the most significant are clarifying that when we do offset overpayments to collect them, that we can offset at any amount. To clarify that it doesn't have to be an offset, all other payments or none, that we could do a partial amount. That may be a challenge for us to implement in our systems, but we think having clear legal authority to have that flexibility is helpful. Another significant change that it makes is right now, we do not have the legal authority to waive overpayments if it was due to basically an accidental mistake that the claimant makes. So it was caused by them, but it wasn't intentional. We don't have the authority to waive those. And Senate Bill 172A would give us the authority to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Lindsay Nadwich with Coin. Lindsay Nadwich. Okay, we'll check back. Next up will be Mike Rogaway with the Oregonian.
Hey, David, you mentioned we're talking about the PUA form outage last weekend. You'd mentioned on today's call something about suspicious activity. What was the relation of that to that outage?
So I'm going to be careful, as I have been when we're talking about anything related to potential fraud activities. We did see suspicious activity over the weekend on that PUA site, and our teams looked at that immediately, took steps to determine what was going on, to eliminate any risk, and to also ensure access of people to be able to continue filing their claims. So we're still actively looking into that. And again, unfortunately, I'm not able to share details of what we saw that was suspicious because we don't want to share any information that would tip off people that are trying to do anything. We've been actively working with the vendor, and we are looking at all the possibilities of what might have been going on and what we can do to continue ensuring access for people and protecting their benefits.
Was that what caused the outage?
So there were a number of issues that were going on. At one point, we and the vendor took the website down to make some additional changes to it. And it was a combination of suspicious activity and taking the website down to make some changes that interrupted service for people seeking benefits.
Thank you.
Next up is Keaton Thomas with KATU.
Hey, David. Thanks for taking the time. I want to circle back to just the kind of the 1 year expiration point. I guess, to what extent are people seeing delays due to that expiring claim after a year? And then do you have any numbers for the number of people that is either currently affecting or you projected to affect?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. We've been watching it closely and working through them more quickly. It was a huge number of people who filed claims about a year ago, and they didn't all happen in the same week, but we had 3 consecutive weeks where it was well over 70,000 people each week. So we saw a very large increase in the number of new claims being filed. Many of those are going through with no pause. Some of them are seeing those delays. We shared that it could be up to 6 weeks. We think that we've implemented some automation and some other processes that is speeding that up. We're focused on minimizing that delay as much as possible, but I don't have the numbers of how many people are currently waiting. It kind of shifts each day as new people file new claims and as we get through more and more of the people who have already filed.
And I don't really have any other questions. So that's it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up, and Bill wasn't sure he'd be here, but Bill Puller with the Statesman Journal. Okay, then we will check back. And then next up is Tom Cusack with the Oregon Housing Blog.
Hi, can you hear me, David?
I can.
Okay, terrific. I look back and it appears to me that the 2020 average weekly covered wage may be higher than it was in 2019, which, as I understand, could trigger some higher minimum and maximum unemployment insurance benefits. When will you know what the new maximum and minimum amounts will be, and when will they become effective?
They become effective, I believe, it's mid-year, so it's typically for new claims that are filed after the midpoint of the year. I don't have the claim calendar in front of me, but right around the beginning of July. And in terms of when we announce that, we typically announce that just shortly before that, after we've had a chance to go through all of the computations. But that's something that we'll certainly be sharing what the minimum and maximum weekly benefit amounts will be.
And so follow up to that is, when was the last time the 15% minimum and the 64% maximum amounts were increased?
Just to clarify, are you talking about when those statutory formulas for what the minimum and maximum weekly benefit amounts are? I don't have in front of me when the last time those statutes were changed. That's something we can certainly look at.
Yeah, I wonder if someone could just shoot me a note about that afterwards. It'd be great. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next up is Morgan Romero with KGW.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Wonderful. Hey, so I've heard from a couple people who fall in that category of regular unemployment insurance claims expiring, and they receive paper letters in the mail telling them that they need to call and not making it clear that their regular unemployment insurance claims are expiring. They call the number is busy, when in reality, all they really needed to do was go online and just file a new claim. Why is that not clear in those letters being sent to folks who filed a year ago?
So we sent proactive notices out to people who had their claims coming up at that 1 year expiration, letting them know that they would need to file a new claim. We've been trying to share that information as broadly and as publicly as we can. Unfortunately, a lot of those automatically generated notices that go out, for instance, when somebody files a claim after their claim year has expired or in some other circumstances, those are things that are hard-coded into our legacy system. And it takes an incredible amount of time to go in and try to change those automatic notices And we have our experts that have the ability to do that, instead focused on standing up the new benefit programs, like getting the NEC benefits going, and doing all of the other work. So um, throughout, we know that some of the notices that go out are not as specific as we would like in terms of giving that detailed guidance of what people need to do, which is why we did add some additional proactive communication to people as their claims were nearing the anniversary, and put information out on our website also, trying to guide people through what they need to do.
I'll ask a follow-up. I mean, it seems like a lot of people don't know that or didn't receive that correspondence. And so, 5 weeks later and they still haven't received a payment. If you guys are automatically directing people to your phone lines in anticipation of this surge, did you staff your phone lines more? I mean, obviously this has been a problem for a year now.
So we've been constantly hiring and staffing up our phone lines. The issue has been and continues to be that I mentioned we paid benefits to well over 100,000 people last week. And because it's a weekly benefit system, each week, each person may have something that they need to call us. Now, certainly not everyone does each week, but we're seeing an incredibly high number of calls coming in. We have been preparing for this, but because we can see a lot of the issues that need to be worked on with the claims, we're taking advantage of what we learned earlier in the pandemic. For instance, when we did our Project Focus 100, where we took the people that have the expertise to fix the claims and have them working through and addressing as many of those claims as quickly as they can, which they can do a lot of when they're permitted to focus on that. So we're doing that at the same time that we're continuing to hire more people to answer the phone and trying to expand the other ways that people can connect with us, like that expansion to the Contact Us form that I mentioned earlier. It is a very complex set of programs, and there are a huge number of people that have a wide variety of questions, and we continue to work to make it as easy as we can for people to get the specific information that they need. There are so many different programs in different circumstances that we put a lot of information out there, and we know that it can be confusing and a little challenging to find the specific thing that applies to the question that they have right now.
Thank you.
Next is Kate Davidson with OPB.
Hey, so I know there's a lot of moving parts out there. I wanted to ask specifically about the backlog to process people's PUA documentations, or the additional documentation that's required now. Do you have a sense of how many claims are waiting for that verification process, and how long a wait they face?
So I'll give you the information that I have. As you mentioned, there are a lot of moving parts. Part of it is that we did see a fair number of people that waited until recently to submit that documentation. And there's quite a large number of claims that we still haven't received the documentation for at all. So I'll describe our process, which is that we are focused on looking at whose benefits are going to be impacted first. So that the deadline for people depends on when they receive the notice about needing to provide information to us. So we're looking at claims based on when that deadline comes up first and working through those. We're making good progress on it. Probably the best example I can give you is if someone hadn't yet submitted their documentation and they submit it today, we are generally getting through those in under 2 weeks. That may change because we do anticipate that some people, that we may see an increase in the number of documents being submitted after we start notifying people that their benefits are going to stop. So we do have some contingency plans, but right now we're looking at about that 2-week window for newly submitted verifications.
And when you receive those documents, is there any acknowledgement to the claimant that the documents have been received?
When people file it, there are multiple ways that they can submit it. So if they do that when they file their weekly claim, they do get a confirmation that their weekly certification was submitted and the documentation went along with that, so that they do have confirmation of the claim being submitted. People do also get a response if they have submitted it as part of the Contact Us Some of those were things that we added after we had already received documentation from some people, and some people had already provided the documents to us quite some time ago before this new requirement came about, and we've been doing our best to go through those claims to review the information, even if people didn't resubmit it. So I can't promise that every person that submitted it received confirmation, but we did add some ways for them to get confirmation as they've submitted it more recently.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next up is Dick Hughes with the Hughesisms.
Thank you very much. First, you mentioned, David, the changes to the contact us form, which made me curious. Are there other user-friendly things you're working on? Because the contact us is something that we've been talking about for quite a while, and I didn't realize that an update to that was in the works. So I was just curious if there were other things that you're working on to improve the data flow and the customer experience, as well as your tracking ability.
Sure. There are a lot of things that we're looking at, and a lot of it has been looking at what possibilities are, when they would actually provide a benefit, how much, and then what's involved with getting it kind of implemented and integrated into the rest of our systems. So there certainly are additional improvements to the phone system that we've been exploring. We've been looking at a lot of possibilities about different ways for us to communicate more effectively. A lot of them are things that we don't think would either be helpful in the short term or feasible to do in the short term without disrupting a lot of the work needed to get people their benefits. This has been one where we saw a real opportunity and wanted to take advantage of it. We do anticipate there will be more things moving forward. I really don't want to talk about all the things that we're looking at, because a lot of them, like I said, we can't do in the real short term, but we have constantly been looking at what possibilities might be, and the ones that look promising but we can't get to immediately, we're certainly circling back to look at for a later date.
So it sounds like you sort of have this giant bowl of ideas that you're churning through to see which ones would work effectively now, which might work later as time permits, and which might not work at all, but that you have just this broad range of ideas. Is that a fair characterization?
I think that is, and that's one of the things that over the course of the pandemic, we've really seen the importance of constantly looking for anything that might help, and at least doing some quick evaluation, and the ones that look promising, diving in a little bit more. We still have to do that prioritization, but we're really open, and we certainly have heard a lot of good ideas as people share what the pain points are, and many people have offered up affirmative, why don't you do X? And those are things that we are looking at, and some of them are behind some of the improvements that we've been able to make.